Alright, now that we've finished off how to find slope, we are going to move on to chapter 3.3, which is what is the equation? So in this section, we are going to be finding out what the equation is of a line. So before we get on to that, we have to find out one very special thing about our line, and that's called the y-intercept. So you may have heard of the word intercept before. In this case, it's where the line crosses the y-axis. So as a reminder, the y-axis is right up here, and it just goes straight down. So you can see where our line crosses, and it crosses the y-axis at 1. So our answer in this case is 1. Let's move on. So in this one, we are going to use what we learned last section. It's how to find slope, and just what I just taught you about how to find the y-intercept. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out where our line crosses the y-axis. So it crosses it right here at 1. So our y-intercept is 1. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the slope. Now you may remember from last section, how I find the slope is I have to put 2 dots on the line. So here's a dot, and I'm going to make this one a dot. Now the next step is to go make your triangle. So I'm going to go up and over. So when I start at this dot, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3. Now on your homework, you're going to find this, and it's going to be filling in the blank. The first one is where your slope goes, and the second one is where your y-intercept goes. So you're going to be asked to figure out the y-intercept, you're going to be asked to figure out the slope, and then you're just going to put them in. So my slope is 3 over 3, and my y-intercept is 1. So that means that my equation is y equals 3 over 3 x plus 1. So do you see what I did there? I just put everything together. Let's try another one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find out my y-intercept. I'm going to follow my line, and it's going to intersect or cross the y-axis at -1. So my y-intercept is -1. Now my slope, I have to find another dot. So here is another dot, and I'll make my triangle. So from this dot, I'm going up 1, and then I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 over 4. Now keep in mind, the first one is where your slope goes, and the second one is where your y-intercept goes. So my slope is 1 over 4, and my y-intercept is minus 1. So if I put it all together, it's y equals 1 over 4 x plus minus 1. Let's go on again. Another practice. So, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my y-intercept. So I follow my line, and I figure out where it crosses the y-axis. So it crosses right there, which is minus 4. And my next one is the slope. So here's a dot, and looks like here's another dot. Then I make my triangle, and I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going over 1, 2, 3. So always remember the first one is where your slope goes, 4 over 3, and the second one is where your y-intercept goes, minus 4. So it's going to be y equals 4 over 3 x plus minus 4. Okay, so now it's your turn. What I would like you to start by doing is finding out your y-intercept and then your slope. And then I'd like you to unpause. So go ahead and hit pause, and once you've found your y-intercept and your slope, you may unpause again. Okay, so here we have the y-intercept. So we need to figure out where it crosses the y-axis. So it crosses it right here at minus 1. And now we're going to figure out our two dots. Looks like we have a dot right here. So we make our triangle. And we're going up 1, 2, 3. And then we're going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to put our slope in the first one. And our y-intercept in the second one. So 3 over 5, negative 1. So our equation is y equals 3 over 5 x plus minus 1. Alright. Now I would like you to do the whole thing this time. So I'd like you to figure out the y-intercept, and then the slope, and then put it into the equation. So go ahead and hit pause, and then finish it off. Alright. So we follow this line. We see that it crosses at the 5. And now our slope, we need to figure out another dot. Right there. So we make our triangle. And we count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we count over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course our slope goes in the first one, and our y-intercept goes in the second one. So our equation is y equals 6 over 5 x plus 5. So you may have noticed that in our practice questions we didn't have any lines with a minus slope. And that was actually just a coincidence. So you'll have to remember from the previous section video when a slope or when a line has a negative slope or a minus slope. Okay, so your homework is to complete chapter 3.3 assignment found on MyRCOA. And some special information is that 4 questions on the chapter quiz will be similar to the homework questions.